Hey guys, my name is Rohit Singh and I welcome you all to my channel Developer Geeks. Well, this current playlist is all about C++ programming language. We will try to cover the topics from beginner to expert in this playlist. Well, this current video is all about the basics of C++ programming. Well, C++ is one of the most popular programming language, and C++ was basically built on the extension of C. Before it was called as C with classes and objects. Well, the syntax of both the languages are a little similar, but the only difference is that there are classes and objects in C++, which is missing in C. Well, from past years we have seen different kind of versions of C++, starting with C++ 11, 14, 17, and currently it is 20. Well, the objective of today's video is all about to understand what is a programming language. Then we will see what are the real world use cases of C++. Then we will understand different kind of data types, and we will see what are the rules of defining a variable and comments. Then we will understand the basic structure of the C++ programming. Then we will see different kinds of errors that occurs in a programming. Then we will practically venture what are inputs, output, and we will see how we can input data and we can get a particular output from it. Now let's understand what is a programming language. Basically, our sole purpose of this is to give information or to provide input to the machine and to get a particular output from it. Well, machine understands only the language of machine, that is zeros and ones. We also call it as machine language or machine code. And human can understand some English or its own language. So programming language are a mixture of both the things. And there are multiple programming languages. Basically, there is something called as a compiler. The compiler converts a high-level programming language into a low-level programming language. Now we code in a compiler and we try to compile it and we get the particular output. But in the background, the designing of that compiler is a very long process. We will understand the process in depth in the playlist of compiler design. Well, this is all about programming language. We have different programming language according to different uses. Now let's understand what is a data type in C++. Basically, data is nothing but a raw fact and figure. It can be either a person's name, it can be either a blood group or address or a phone number. So this whole thing can be categorized into three different types. One is primitive. Primitive is basically a predefined or a primary data type. There are a couple of data types starting from integer, character, boolean, float, double, and valueless, or we can say void, which prints nothing. Now let's see what are a derived data type. Derived means that it is extracted or inherited from the primitive data type. Well, the integer, character, boolean, and every primitive data type has particular size. And the third one, that is abstract data type. Abstract data type basically means that abstract data type or user defined data type is basically means that the user can itself create their own data type with particular sizes. There are classes, structure, union, enum or enumerator or a type def. Now let's understand what are the sizes of data type. Well, the character size is of 1 byte, like A, B, small b, capital A, capital B, or any symbol has only size 1. Well, integer size is 4 depending upon the compiler's size, right, or your PC size, if it's 64-bit or 32-bit. So it varies from that. Then comes long. Long is basically the double of int. You have to just double it. Then comes the float or the pointer where you use decimals. And double is basically double of that. You can write a long range of a float number like 3.1, 4.328, something like that. Now let's see what are the different uses of C++ in real world. C++ is popularly used for operating systems. your Windows, your Linux and Mac OS are on the base, they oftenly use the programming language of C and C++ because it is highly understandable to them, to the developer. Now comes games. They often are and popularly used in games and building graphical user interface. And there are other users too. You can build compiler, embed system, banking application and database management. Well, the companies such as Amazon, Adobe, Google, Microsoft and other companies, they need a programmer who has a strong base in C++ because C++ is popularly used, and if you are preparing for gate examinations, and so they don't ask from Java or Python, they only prefer C or C++ language, so you need to have a strong base in that. Now let's understand what are variables and comments. Basically, creating a variable there are particular rules. Now let's venture them. First is that name can contain letters, digits and only underscores. Underscore is there is a symbol of where there is a line in the bottom one, not in the middle one, only the bottom one. There is only one symbol that you can use. Then comes you can begin the whole variable from a letter or a underscore. You can't begin the variable name from a number, right? Then comes case sensitivity. You can see in the example of the third point, my var, in that v is capital and in other v is small, so both are different, so the compiler will treat both the variables as differently. It may sound similar, but it will check the the alphabets too, because it has a particular ASCII value. Now comes name cannot contain white space or special character such as this. It can only contain a underscore. Then comes something called as keyword or reserved words like int. Int means integer, so there are around 30 to 32 keywords or more than that maybe, which are reserved, so you can't use these name as your variable name because it will create an ambiguity. Now comes how to declare. In this example you can see int minutes per hour is equal to 60 semicolon, right? Int is the data type of minute per hour, which is equal to the value of 60, and then you have to terminate so that the compiler will understand that the ending of that particular line is at the semicolon. Then comes int m is equal to 60, where you can write m as the variable name also. Then comes comments. Comments are a piece of code, a piece of line or information which compiler ignores. Well, there are two types of comments. One is a single line and one is a multiple line. The first line you can see is a single line comment, and the second one is a multiple line comment or multi-line comment. So this is how we create variables and comments. Now let's understand what is the basic structure of the coding or the C++ language. Well, first we will go from top to bottom. The first is a preprocessor directive. Basically, in a layman language, if I have to understand you, preprocessor basically means that if you have to start a vehicle, so the first thing is that you will plug in the key, right? So similarly, this is somewhat like the key plugin, right? The first thing you can see is the hashtag include. Include is basically a folder in your PC, right? In that folder you will have multiple header files. Now let's understand what is a header file. Header files, as the name suggests, it is a file, right? That file contains multiple functions that helps us to make the code more easier to write the code efficiently, right? So that if you have to use the particular function, so you have to mention that header file within which it is accessible to. So we have to mention that in the topmost of the coding part. Then comes the definition or the declaration section. In here, if we can declare a variable like int a is equal to 10, right? So it is called as the global declaration because it is outside the braces, right? Every compilation occurs from the main function. The entry point or the compilation point occurs from the main function, which returns a integer type, which is in the left, which is written in the red color. right? And declaration of the definition can be of a macros type that we will cover in the next videos. Then comes the namespace std. Namespace std basically means that there is something called a standardization, and the namespace is used to reduce the ambiguity. Within the IO stream there are two objects, that is cout and cin, that we'll cover in the next slides, which is used to input and output. To differentiate that cout and cin statement from other variables or something like that, so we use std to give that reduce the ambiguity. Then comes the int main, where the main function is the entry point, right, and which returns a type of int. Within that braces we have to code everything. Within that braces we have to code our function or our main purpose, and after that we can define our function that we will cover in the next videos, right? The functions are a user defined function where we can write our own methods that this thing has to be happen. Now let's understand what are the different types of error that occur in a C++ program. Well, there are basically 5 kinds, in which one of the important one is a syntax error. Syntax mean if you violate any rule of the whole structure, which is this one, so it will print or it will show a syntax error. If I give you an example, right, in the first preprocessor, if you forgot to write the hashtag, then it will print you a syntax error, because this is the rule. If you violate any rule, then it will show you an error. Then comes the runtime error. Actually, integer type and as you have seen, int and float has particular range, right? If you exceed from that range, it will print you an error while in the runtime process. Well, now comes the linker error. Linker error is basically after you execute the program, it is not linked to a particular object file, so it shows an error after that. Then comes the logical error. Basically it's like if you want to print a desired value, but it is logically incorrect. It is showing some error, it is showing something, but it is not logically correct, so that means it is a logical error. Then comes a semantic error. Semantic error basically means, right, like if the line says you have to write the password, but you write the username, right, or if the sentence doesn't make any sense, right? Like example, Prashant writes a letter, right, and this is the actual line, a proper line, but a letter is writing Prashant. This doesn't make sense, right? So this is what a semantic error means. Now let's see what are input and output in C++ programming. Well, you can input any particular data type in the program while using the cin object. It is basically a standard input stream, and we often use extraction symbol, that is beneath the line. And to print an output, there are 3 different kinds. One is cout, another is a cr, that is to print error, a buffer error. Then comes a clog, that is a buffered standard error stream. So these are the 3 ways you can print an output, and we often use the symbol of insertion. Now we will see how practically we can build a program where we can input a data and we can print something. Well guys, I am in my C++ compiler, which is the Xcode actually. Even you can download or you can use the online compiler which are available in the internet. Well, the first is that you have to declare the header file. You will write the include and then IO stream for input and output. Then you will use the namespace to remove the ambiguity. Then the program always starts from a int main, and it always returns 0. Basically this return 0 means that the program has run without any errors. Now what you will write is that you will write an integer a, and you will declare a particular number, like any random number, then you will print C out A. Now if I run this program, it has built successfully, and you can see 2 to 7 is printed without any errors. Right, now how to take inputs? Well, this line is called as declaration or initialization. This is how we initialize, and this is how we write comments. This is how we take an input by writing the C in an extraction symbol A. Once we write A, and you can also write C out, enter the value to A and new line. Then the output will be saved here, and then you can write that the value of A is A. Now let's see if it works or not. It has run successfully. Now we have to write the value of A. You can see it has print without any errors. So this is how we can take the input and write a particular value using cout. Now we will see how we can use cerr and clog. Both work similarly. You can now you can see we have to write any number here, 123. Yes, 123 is printed twice. The reason is because it is printed twice. So cerr and clogs are also a object which helps us to print the output. Well, that's it from my side, guys. If you do like the video and if you find it informative, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. And the next video for C++ will be on the topic of constants, operators and what is typecasting. So see you in the next video. Please take care.